Louisiana Living on Fox 14 continues.
And welcome back. I'm joined now by Doug Breckenridge, and he's here to tell us about the Cooley House Mid-Century Modern House Tour. Doug, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Doug, give us a better understanding of what is mid-century modern.
Mid-century modern is basically a range of houses that occurred from primarily the late 1940s up to about 1980. Most people have the false assumption that it's the flat roof houses, but it actually isn't. Those houses were predominant probably in the 50s and early 60s, and then later on you got into more pitched houses and things of that sort. But they basically reflected modern lifestyles as they were in the 1950s, which were family-oriented, very open. They broke out of the little boxes and foyers and dining room areas and basically integrated those into one large area with a kitchen, etc. Lots of glass, lots of dialogue between the exterior and the interior.
And what will we learn about our community from the tour?
Well, we have we've lost quite a bit of them. Unfortunately, they've been transformed into other houses, but we had a very significant vocabulary, or a number of houses in this vocabulary. And one of the objects of this tour is to refocus people on the fact that these are historic houses. They're not just something that was a passing phase. They're literally historic houses, and it's a movement that today is all over the nation is very much back in vogue. I bought a mid-century house in about 1990 and refurbished it, and that's very common practice across the nation.
The event starts tonight with a presentation, I understand. Can you tell us how the weekend plays out and when the tour begins?
Tonight we have at Parish Restaurant, we have a little get-together. Mill Baudron, who is an architect in Dallas, he specializes in mid-century houses, renovations, interiors, etc. And tonight is kind of a meet and greet thing with Mill Baudron and at Parish, and they've afforded us a little room there. And then tomorrow we actually start the tour, and it starts at 10 o'clock at the old Saul Mintz home there on Point Drive, and that's the kickoff point. And they're basically five houses involved, and they're all of that period, with one exception, and that's the Cooley House. And the Cooley House is the group that's putting on this this event. And the Cooley House is a prairie-style house from Frank Lloyd Wright's Oak Park studio days. And it actually is the forerunner of all these mid-century houses. It's the one that actually set the pace.
Hey, give us a brief history on the Cooley House, how it was developed.
The Cooley House is probably one of the most significant pieces of architecture in North Louisiana, if not the whole state. It's prairie style, and prairie style is actually one of the only American style of architectures, and it was formulated by Frank Lloyd Wright in the late 1890s and the early part of the last century. The significance of the Cooley House is the husband-wife team, and that was Walter Burley Griffith and Mary Mahoney Griffith. They were married, and they were both architects, and they were both out of Frank Lloyd Wright's studio, and they left there, I believe, in 1906, and they designed the Cooley House in 1908. However, it wasn't built until 1926.
Very interesting. And I know that there are still openings for the tour. Where can someone show up tomorrow to go on the tour? At
10 o'clock, if people would, at the Saul Mintz residence on Point Drive, the old Saul Mintz residence. Jane Mickey is the current owner. But that is the kickoff point. At that point, if people have not signed up, we can take a check or a credit card and then give them one of these little directory things.
Great, Doug. Thank you so much for being here. It was great to have you.
Well, thank you for asking.
And coming up next, we'll have more Louisiana Living. We'll have our adorable pet of the week. Stay with us.